And we're live. Hello, React Native developers. What is going on? William here, live streaming from beautiful Zurich, Switzerland. Glad to be with you. If there's any issues with the sound or the quality of the streaming, please let me know. I'm still a newbie with this, so please let me know in the chat, and I'll make sure to fix a problem if there are any with the stream. So today we are doing an animation challenge. You should see here on the screen. So you have this Tabbar animation. A subscriber of the channel sent me an email and asked, can this be done in React Native? And yeah, let's have a look. So I think it can. How would we do this in React Native? So first of all, there are a couple of layers. I would say there are 3 layers. So the first one is a tab bar, and you see that this tab bar has a really particular shape, which we can draw using SVG. And I was thinking maybe we can, so set some points for the active tab, and then use draw an arc, and so using some special radius value, try to have the same level of smoothing. And then I remembered that we actually, in a previous video, used the technique to achieve such a nice shape, and that's the Revolute example. So here we just, in the Revolute chart, we just had some points, and we could draw a straight line for each data point using D3, and then using D3 we could have like some curve smoothing between points, and we could actually choose between different smoothing. And these are things you can do manually as well. It's fairly complex, but you can get it for free. So actually, I think it would be interesting to draw this using D3. So it's not a chart, it's a tab bar, but I think D3 is going to be very appropriate to draw the shape. And then you see that basically the tab bar is sliding from left to right. So what we could do is make the tab bar twice as large as the screen width, and then when we tap on one of the tab, we can slide the tab bar to the appropriate place. And so that would be the first layer. And then there is a second layer, which are the non-active icons. And so we can overlay the icons and the touch, so the button on top of our tab bar, which we've drawn with SVG. So that would be the second layer. And when the tab bar is active, we don't display the icon, so we could animate on opacity, for instance. And then the third layer are the active icons. So you see you have the icon drawn into a circle, and that's going to be a third layer. We can translate them below the tab bar when the tab is not active, and once it's active, we can animate the icon, the active tab, to its original position. And then there is the last thing, which is the animation of the icon, which I'm not going to do today, but it's also doable using SVG, but then it would require, I would say, quite some custom work for each icon. So I'm not going to do this today. So let's see. I hope everything is okay with the stream. So, can it be done in React Native? Let's have a look. Before we get started, 2 things. If you have a new React project coming up, I strongly recommend you check out React Elements at react-native.shop/element. This is a premium starter kit for React Native. It includes everything you need when starting a new React Native projects, lots of beautiful UI components, boilerplate navigation, static analysis, and so on. You can try it through TestFlight for iOS, on Android through the Expo client, or by downloading the APK. And if you are looking also to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at react-native.shop/buy-me-a-coffee-is in between. And I will give you access to exclusive content and access to the private GitHub repository where I tinker with all these examples. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new Expo project using Expo init. And I'm going to call it, Tabbar animation. Okay. And now I have a small script to transform this project into a TypeScript project. And it's installing the ESLint, config, and so on. Oops, okay. All right. So now I can start the project, and let me just open it in VS Code. Let me just put this guy here. Okay. And I'm gonna start it as well on my phone. So I should have it here. Perfect. That's new. Let's see. So I am not able to start Expo at the moment. That's terrible, never happened before. Okay. So now we should be good. All right. That was very scary. So I can get the background color here. Perfect. And we're gonna do so I can remove this one. Oh, so as always, my 13-inch MacBook Pro, live streaming seems to be always a bit too much for my laptop because it always gets super laggy, and I'm really not sure why. So now we're gonna use justify content flex and, because we want the tab bar to appear at the bottom, and we're going to create the tab bar component. So I'm going to create a folder called components. Maybe I should make this bigger. And a file called tabbar.tsx. And we call it tabbar. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, so we're gonna draw the SVG shape. So we're gonna have a SVG element with a path which contains the, so we're gonna have the path of the shape of the tab bar, and below I'm gonna use a safe area view for iOS. SVG we import from Expo. And we get the path from SVG. And we're gonna need also the screen dimensions. So the width of the screen, and for the height of the tab bar I'm gonna use 64 pixels. Now let's use D3 to draw the tab bar, and I think I'm gonna need to go back to the GitHub repository to see how it was done in the Revolut example. Okay. So Revolut. Okay. So we used G3 shape. So I'm gonna add it to the project. And so how do we draw a shape? Yes, that looks good. So I can import it here. And copy. So we have const d equals shape.line, and here we have x is the x, y is dy. So shape curve basis. Maybe we'll use this one. Maybe we'll use another one. So this is the smoothing function we want to use. And so here we need to pass some data. And actually we're gonna need to, because we use this curve function, we're gonna need to draw three. Oh, sorry about that. Let me try to fix it quickly. Up. Is this better? Should be better now. Let's see. Hopefully it's better. So I need to draw actually three shapes and concatenate them together. So the first one, and the reason is because if we go back here, if I used the smoothing function for the active tab, I need to draw the other edges of the tab bar without using the smoothing function. So I'm gonna build the head of the tab bar using lines, straight lines. I'm gonna draw the active tab using smoothing function, and then I'm gonna draw the tail of the tab using straight lines. So I actually need, thank you for letting me know, guys, when something is off. So I need to draw three curves: the left, the active tab, and the right part. So actually, let me. So D is gonna be the concatenation of left, tab, and right. So we're gonna do left, and we start at x equals 0, y equals 0, and so again we want so if I go back here, we want the tab bar to be twice as large as the screen of the width, so we can slide it for every position. So the tab where the active tab will be positioned would be after starting at x equals width. So here we go until x equals width and y equals 0. So that's the left part. We can also do the right part. I think it's quite easy. And it makes me think that we need no curve, no curving, just straight lines here. Same for right. So we start at after the position of the tab, which is width plus the tab of the width of the tab. So tab width, which we're gonna need to create, actually define the tabs. And so y equals 0. And then we go until x times 2, y equals 0, x times 2, y equals height, which is 64. And then we can go to x0 to close the tab with y equals 8. And the final line when we go back from x equals 0, y equals 0. So before we do the tab shape, let's just define our tabs quickly. So tabs, and it's just an array of icon. Let me just maybe get some icons. Are there some, maybe one which is called grid? Okay, so the first one is grid. I mean, it doesn't matter really here, but second one is like a list. Third one, yeah, there's some arrows, like maybe a switch. No. Exchange 9. Refresh. Yeah, maybe we can use this one. Refresh. Okay, and then 2 more. The last one is user. And maybe I can just use a random one here. I don't know, let's say box. So now the width, tab width is, so we have our tabs, that's great. Tab width is width divided by number of tabs. Perfect. So now we can draw the tab. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Really appreciate it. So again, it's a shape. We're gonna give it some data, and we are gonna use some shape function, some curling function. So we're gonna try with this one, see how it looks. And you don't have to use D3 to build such shape, but I think it's kind of cool. I don't know how to build a Bezier points, and I think I could have done something with some arcs and using some radius, but I think it's just with D3, you don't have to think about it. I think it's really cool. So we start at, let me just, x equals width and y equals 0. So that's where we start. So now I can do width plus some, you know what? First, let me show you what it looks like. Let's see how it looks like without the curve. So I can do width plus some space, maybe 5 pixels, 5, and y we go to 0, and I'm just trying to draw basically here the points which define this shape. So we see we have like some at the bottom, some before. So I'm gonna create, yeah, here some margin, and then at 10 pixels I can go down to 10 pixels, and then at 15 pixels I can go down to the 8. So I go down completely, so to the 64 pixels, the 8 of the tab bar. So here now we are down, and now we need to go up. So this is gonna be width plus tab bar width minus 15. So I do basically now these instructions, but the other way around. So I'm still at height, and then minus 10, I'm at 10. So I'm just doing the symmetry. Oops. And at minus 5, 0. So we have our shape. Maybe I need to add a fill. So let's add a fill, background color white. I should add one also to the safe area view. Okay, so glad to have you here, guys, live. Safe area, background color, white. Now we should only see a square because we will need to translate the tab bar in order to see the active tab. But let's have a look first. So fair enough. Oh, but well. Okay, so it looks like here we only see the safe area view. Do I need to add maybe some width and height to the SVG? Okay, so here we see the shape properly. Actually, the width is twice as big, so I should just it's 2 times the width of the screen. Perfect. And now what I can do, if you want to see the shape, so we don't have the curve yet, I think. I just need to translate, and we're gonna translate using animation values later. But I just need to add style, transform, just so we can see how it looks like. Translate x minus, let's say, I don't know, 200, 100. Let's have a look. Yeah, so this is, you see on the left hand side, this is the shape we have drawn. These are the points we have drawn, and so doesn't look good, but hopefully if we use our fancy curving function, which let me copy it from here, and you can customize this. There's so many functions you can use and parameters, and you can play with it. And now let's see how it looks like. Okay, much better, right? Do I have an x minus tab width? Think it looks pretty good, but you see there's like a sharp edge. I don't know if you guys can see it. I see it. So here, like, the edge is like whoop, perfectly smooth because of the margin of 5 pixels, but it's not on the right hand side, and I think it's because I need to go to 0 as well on width plus tab width, and now it's smooth perfectly. So now let's do, before we animate this guy, so I'm gonna remove this one for now. And I think since we know that we're gonna slide this, I can either create an animated SVG component or wrap it into an animated view. Or let me just create an animated SVG. Animated SVG. So because we're gonna slide this guy, I'm gonna use animated from React Native. And so, guys, you know that I'm a huge reanimated fan, and And I'm a huge fan because I started with Series, can it be done in React Native? And obviously this module is making the spectrum of what can be done in React Native very large. But here in this case, because we want to trigger imperatively from the gesture the animation, so when we tap, I find the animated API from React Native to be a bit more appropriate, because we can do spring functions, timing functions imperatively. So I find it, for this example of like touching tabs, to be more appropriate to use the animated from React Native, because there's a bit less boilerplate. So let's yes, so I need to create the animated SVG component. So animated, create animated component SVG. So now let's create the second layer, right? There's 3 layers. And now the second layer are the buttons with the icon, which we can tap to trigger the animation. So let's do that. So I'm gonna overlay the layers on top of each other. So here I'm gonna wrap this into a view and use absolute fill to overlay it on top of the SVG. So I'm gonna use a view. Here the width is width and height is height. Perfect. And then I have an absolute fill. Style sheet absolute fill on the static. I'm gonna call it static tab bar, which is just the icons with the buttons. So I need to create this component. Up. And maybe I can get the tabs as parameters. And the tab is just a name as a string. So I need to pass it as parameter here. So now we can I'm just gonna return a fragment, iterate over the tabs. And return some sort of a button. Actually, let me and I can use touchable. So I started to use TypeScript because you need to use either Flow or TypeScript. You absolutely need to use static analysis, and I feel like the Flow support in the open source community has dropped like the effort of making it a viable open source project, a very active open source project. I could be wrong, but I felt like they were kind of giving up on this idea. And I love ESLint. So the ESLint plugins in React are extremely important in the ecosystem. And since now we can use both TypeScript and ESLint, for me it was clear to switch to TypeScript. And since I switched to TypeScript, I'm pretty happy. So here we have our button. So we can just have the icon, name, just yes, the recording will be available on YouTube after we're done. And I know that people hate when I use this spreading syntax, but I'm not sure why. I find it to be I don't know why everyone says it's super ugly, and like on Reddit I received like a couple of comments about it. I find it to be less redundant. So I don't know why. It's so funny because for me it's clearly like a superior syntax somehow, but I guess it's like the space and tab debate. But everyone seems to find this syntax ugly. So I need to import icon, so I used feather icon from expo as icon from @expo/vector icons. Perfect. I think it's called feather. So here I need to add some style to the container. So let's create it. Hello guys, it's great to have you on the channel. So container, so we need to use flex direction row. Yeah, again, I'm using TypeScript because you absolutely need to use static analysis, and in terms of open source, TypeScript is much more mature, and since we can use it now with ESLint, it's like the best of both worlds. Because I think the ESLint plugin are extremely important, but now you can use TypeScript without any trade-off, which I think is really amazing. So flex direction row, and here we need to add some styling to the tab. And I think exactly, why not? Tab, so we're gonna use the flex one and justify content center, align items center. Let's see how it looks. We might have some surprises. Fair enough. Up. Oh. Thanks. You're always the best to catch my my mistakes live. Amazing. So I can just use key. Okay. So here it's size. This is why they look so small. And they don't seem to center. I need to add some height here, which is 64 pixels. Maybe what I could do is do tab height, export it here. So if we can, you know, we don't have like the value duplicated at different places. So tab height equals 64 pixels, and here I can just import it here. Can I do this? It should work, right? Let's see. Yeah. Let me just 1 second. Okay, we are back. So it looks good. Now we can just slide when we click somewhere. So on press, I know I'm overusing the spreading syntax. Okay, and so we're gonna need to get the animation value in the properties. So we need to create an animation value here to drive the sliding. Just gonna call it maybe value. So I pass it here as parameter. Okay, so on press, we need to know which index we are going to. We need the value, of course, to animate. We need the tabs to compute the index where we are going to. And so actually this doesn't work. I need to do on press. Okay. And now I can animate, can maybe use a spring. To value, so it's with plus, no, minus. Yeah, we at 0, we are on minus with. At with, we have with minus so minus with plus, yeah, okay, plus, I think this one should be good, plus tab with times the index. Use native driver true, start. Oh, we need to pass value here as parameter, and tab with equals with divided by tabs length, and we need to get with from dimensions. Okay. Thank you, Ole. Finally, I was wondering how I could pronounce your name. Yeah, you are the bug catcher. Amazing. Ole, nice to meet you. So this should be good, and it means that the default here value should be we translate minus with. Let's see. And so here we can add, so value, we can use it as translate x. Let's try. Up. Okay. Okay, now let's see what happens if I tap somewhere. Yeah, so it slides nicely. Cool. Give me 1 minute, I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. So now, before we go to the third layer, there's one thing we need to do is, you see like the icon on the active tab need to disappear. And one way we can do this is by animating some opacity here. And we're going to use animated. So opacity equals we need the value, and we are gonna need also the tab width. So value interpolate. Oh no, actually I need to calculate the value for each, so I need to do this here. So okay, opacity equals value dot interpolate input range so we go from, so we are at tab width, the index is tab width times key plus, no, minus width plus, so that's, so that would be the current index. The next index is the same but with key plus 1, and the previous one is key minus 1. Let's see. And the output range is 1, 0, 1. Extrapolate clamp. Let's see if this works. Yes, so the SVG shipped with React Native with Expo is the exact same package and React Native SVG. So you see here it disappears nicely. So I would say layer 1 and layer 2 are pretty good. Now we need to do the third layer, and the third layer is the circle with the icon that pops up. And so first I was thinking we could do it again by using interpolation on the animation value. So we draw the circles and they all have a specific interpolation on translate y, exactly the same way we just did it for opacity. But then if we do this, we'll probably have some funky effect, because when we go from, let's say, left to right, the circle will pop up for every other tabs until it gets to the active tab. So I think it might be better to animate only the tab that will become active and close the one that was active before. So here we're going to create one animation value actually for each tab instead of using the main animation value. So it's we're gonna get a much better result, I think, using this. So let's get started. So I think, so we have the tab here. We're gonna need to overlay the circle icon on top of this one. So I think what I'm gonna do here is create a fragment. And have a view which we maybe can call style active icon maybe. We're gonna put the icon. Okay, so here I have container. Yeah, perfect. And I have two. Okay, so I need to move. That looks good. I need to move the key here. Okay, active icon. I mean, actually, yeah, no, I was thinking actually I could use just this one, but I need to use absolute position. But actually I need to, since it's an absolute position, I need to get it from the tab information. So position, I see a small bug. Try to press on the left. Do you mean the bouncing because of the spring? This we can. Oh, okay. Let me. I think. I think you mean the bouncing because of the spring animation. This we could fix by either like switching the parameter of the spring function or using a timing function instead. But yeah, let's see. Just let me try to get this layer quickly. Absolute. So width is tab width, and left is tab width times the index. Key, and the height is tab height. Okay. Yes, and now we need to do maybe some centering. Justify content center, align items center, and here I need to, so here they are overlaid perfectly, and you see here, so one has opacity 0, but you still see this one. So now I can draw, and you see, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna elevate this one a little bit. So maybe I'm gonna do top, let's say -8, and now I need to draw the circle. So I'm going to create a style called styles.circle. So with maybe 40. I mean, here I'm just putting some values to play with. Border radius 20. Background color white. Almost. Justify content center, align items center. Yeah, pretty good. Maybe we could elevate a little bit more. I'm worried about these pixels I'm seeing here, but let's see. Now we need to animate this guy. And like I said, in order to animate it, we need to create one animation value per tab. So I'm going to do this in the constructor. So yeah, here I'm going to have the animation values. Let's call it values. and it's an array of animated value, and it's an empty array, but in the constructor we get the tabs from the props, and we can map the tabs to, and I need the index, so we have the tab index, so we map it to a new animated value. And so if it's active, it's 1, if it's non-active, it's 0. So if index and the first active tab is the first one, so if index is 0, then the tab is active, if not, it's not active. And okay, so here when we click, first of all, here we're gonna need to, I'm gonna use sequence, so animated sequence. So the first thing I'm gonna do here when we need to, so before doing the spring, the sliding, we're gonna close all active tabs. So I'm gonna map over the values, so these values map, and we're gonna use animated timing, because here we want to do it, I'm not using spring because we want to do it very fast. So we animate the value to value 0, and duration, let's say 100 milliseconds, quite something quite short. And here we're gonna slide to, so we're gonna do two things in parallel. So I'm gonna use animated parallel. So the first thing is this one, of course, we're gonna slide to the tab bar to the right position, but we're also gonna animate the active rounded icon. And so animate spring. And the value is this values at index, and to value is 1. I probably don't need to use a native driver everywhere, just keeping it safe. So I have a syntax error here. Okay. And now we need to animate this one. So we get the tab value. Do I use value here somewhere? Yeah, okay, so active, let's call it active value is these values at index. And now we can create a translate y property, and we interpolate it from active value. And so input range is 0, 1, output range. So when it's inactive, we translate by tab 8, and if not, 0. I'm not sure, let's see. So here I can do transform. Okay. Let's tap and see what happens. Yes. So what do you guys think? I think we are pretty close, no? I mean, except for the animation icon. And here maybe we can look at the spring effect. Yeah, so you see indeed when I tap on the right hand side, maybe one way we could fix it would be, let me check, by making the tab bar a bit wider, even wider than 2 times. I mean, it's a bit of a hack, but still appears. What? Okay. So here, if I make it bigger, also I need to close it here at 2.half. 2.half. And so here the effect has disappeared. So what do you guys think? Do you consider the animation challenge complete? And so I'm gonna, as soon as I'm going offline, I will put the link to the GitHub repository with the example in the description, as well as the example hosted on Snack. So if you have challenges for me or suggestions for can it be done in React Native based on real world apps, you can reach me by email. My email will be also in the video description. If you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, I'm looking forward to talk to you guys soon. And in the meantime, happy hacking. See you guys.